Governor Rick Snyder is defending how his office responded to an email linking the Flint water crisis to a surge in Legionnaire's disease. He's laying the blame for missed signals on the Department of Environmental Quality and continues to clean house. Snyder says his aide, Harvey Hollins, asked the DEQ to look into the Legionnaire's report, and his office never heard back. The governor says that's one reason people are losing their jobs at the DEQ. He fired the director of water quality, and another remains suspended and under review. And the Attorney General has launched an investigation of the entire crisis. Our Hank Winchester spoke with Bill Schuette about that part of the story and some of the criticism the Attorney General has faced. Hank?
And Kimberly, there has been plenty of criticism launched at Schuette in regards to that investigation. But he wanted to make his way here to Flint because he wanted to see firsthand the problems people are facing and also work to try to come up with solutions to help those that need it.
So many things went terribly wrong, and that's why I'm having this independent investigation.
Michigan Attorney General Bill Schuette launched a full investigation to expose any possible wrongdoing in the Flint water crisis. Today, he's talking with us and seeing firsthand how those living here are struggling.
This is about how do you solve problems, how you fix things, and my job as Attorney General, as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the state, is to see what laws of Michigan may have been broken. So that's my job.
Schuette launched his investigation a few weeks ago, even though the residents have been battling with this problem for more than a year. Some say this investigation should have started months ago. Why start the investigation now? Why didn't this start when the problem was first detected?
Well, as Attorney General, you constantly review new facts, new circumstances, new information, and a torrent of information came at the end of December, which was, again, my responsibility to make a decision about conducting an investigation.
And some question whether the Republican Attorney General can really go after the Republican governor. Schuette dismisses that criticism, saying he is focused on Flint. There are some who say it's difficult for you to launch a fair investigation against the governor.
It's my job. We have, as Attorney General, is to enforce the law, defend the Constitution. We have two separate constitutional offices.
And some say that Schuette is only getting in front of this issue right now because he himself hopes to run for governor. He's also taking criticism for putting Todd Flood front and center. Todd Flood, a very well-known and respected attorney, but somebody who has also contributed to Schuette's previous campaigns. We're going to talk to the Attorney General about that, all new tonight at 6 o'clock. We're live here in downtown Flint. Hank Winchester, back to you.
Okay, Hank, we look forward to hearing your report coming up, as you said, at 6. Thank you.
The Attorney General in Flint today, he said he wanted to meet with those who are suffering to get a better understanding of what's happening here in the city. He's also speaking out tonight regarding the investigation. Tonight, Attorney General Bill Schuette on duty in Flint, hitting these streets, talking with those affected by the water crisis. Schuette also speaking out about some of the backlash he's received since announcing his investigation about what really happened here.
And there are voices out there, Hank, who were critical of me about why didn't you start sooner, and then when I do an investigation, those very same voices are being critical that I'm doing one.
Schuette also criticized for picking attorney Todd Flood to lead the investigation. Flood, well known and well respected, but he previously supported Schuette's campaigns.
And Todd Flood contributed to a Democrat named Mike Duggan, a Democrat named Kim Worthy. I don't care who they write a check to. This is about service of the citizens of Michigan.
Some have suggested that Schuette is now only interested in Flint to help push himself forward politically. He says, no way. So how do you respond to those who say you're in front of this now because you're teeing yourself up to run for governor?
Again, someone once told me, he said, pay attention to your customers and ignore the critics. And, the critics are always out there trying to, be negative or trying to, play political games. I ignore that.
And as far as the governor himself, Schuette had this to say about Snyder and his response to this epic disaster. Do you think he's done a good job, though?
I have a strong relationship with the governor. I understand his job, he understands mine, and that's what we'll go forward like that.
Schuette also meeting today with the mayor of Flint and the prosecutor David Layton here in town, both Democrats. He says this is not about politics. It shouldn't be about Republicans versus Democrats. Right now, it should be about finding a solution. The people here need one. We're in downtown Flint. Hank Winchester, back to you.
All right, Hank, and Local 4 is joining forces with NBC News to bring you stories of the faces of Flint and how the crisis will impact a generation of children. We'll bring you updates for months and years to come. You can learn more about our commitment on clickondetroit.com.